So, we are, as part of this webinar, which would last for probably 30 minutes or so, we would discuss about something called as domain analytics. And within that, we will spend some time to understand about supply chain analytics, right? We at 360 Digit MG have come up with life sciences healthcare analytics, financial analytics, marketing analytics, HR analytics, supply chain analytics, cybersecurity analytics, data analytics for internal auditors, sports analytics, retail analytics, and 50 plus domain analytics programs are about to be launched. Okay, that's what our core strength would be. Welcome to this webinar. And even before I proceed further, two quick updates to our participants is that we have partnered with UTM Malaysia, University Technology Malaysia, which happens to be the top 5 universities in Malaysia. And participants who undergo our regular data science training or artificial intelligence training would receive a certificate from UTM Malaysia, right? There'll be an exam. You'll have to pass the exam, written exam, and then you'll have to do a project within 1 week. And then you get this certificate, which obviously carries a lot of value. And then for participants who enroll for our 11 months master's program, right? They will get a certificate from City and Guilds. City and Guilds is a UK-based university, right, which has 150 years of history, and it is backed by Queen of England. It is so prestigious that people in UK who do not do graduation, they do City and Guilds accredited programs or assured programs, and they become job employable, right? That's how robust these programs are. Now, welcome to supply chain analytics. Here is the agenda. We will quickly discuss about the applications of data science, applications of AI in supply chain. We will discuss about role of InnoDataTix, which is our analytics consulting vertical in the space of supply chain analytics, right? So let's get started without wasting any further time, right? Applications. We keep doing projects for various customers, which ranges from aviation to FMCG. We have done a project a few years back, I mean, that's a weird statement, right? 1 year back. We have done a project wherein we have done demand forecasting. What happens in a supply chain basically? You supply the goods, whatever be it, goods, products, services, something, to your end customer. And the process that is followed, or the value chain which is followed, to ensure that you deliver the supplies to your end customer on time with the desired quality, is nothing but supply chain, right? And then when you do analytics at each step of it, across the value chain of supply chain, okay, if you do analytics, that's called as supply chain analytics in some sense, right? So what do we do? That would be your question. So within this, you have something called as demand forecasting, right? You need to optimize your resources. Say Korean Airlines says that, do you know what? I have 10 cargo flights. Given these, I need to transport the cargo across 11 countries. Okay, can you help me with this? Yep, certainly. There are 2 things or 3 things here that we need to bear in mind, which you can do. One thing is demand forecasting, right? So what these folks do is, any aviation client which is into cargo, they say that, okay, we have 3,000 cubic capacity of space available. Out of this space, they say that, okay, 800 say cubic capacity, we are going to reserve for FedEx or DHL, big players, or DTDC, whatever be it, right? And they might say that, do you know what, dear FedEx or dear DHL or dear DTDC, can you folks use my plane, my cargo, and book the space in my flight? For that, I'm going to reserve 800 cubic capacity exclusively for you. I'll not sell this to anyone. It'll be reserved only for you. You can use that. They feel privileged and they might want to sign an MOU with the aviation client, with the aviation company, right? These clients might sign. However, these folks are also very intelligent. Okay, what they do is they use this space which is reserved for them at their own whims and fancies. What do I mean by that? Sometimes they book only, sometimes they book 800, sometimes they might overbook, and majority of the times they underbook. What do you mean by underbook? What they exactly do is, they say that, you know what, this time I can book only 200. And that means you are flying off your flight cargo with 600 cubic capacity space unfilled. And you know for a fact that aviation industry survives, its profitability is measured based on occupancy rate, based on occupancy percentage. Okay, so it's a waste. 600 cubic capacity is empty. You're flying the flight, so it's a waste. You're losing money there. So what we have done is we have started forecasting the demand. We have done two things: long-term forecast and short-term forecast. Long-term forecast means, say, 10 days before the flight takes off, you forecast. And if the forecast says that, do you know what, FedEx this time is going to book only for 300 cubic capacity. So what do? The remaining, out of 800, if you book for 300, then the remaining 500 cubic capacity, you can sell it to the outside players. But you don't obviously sell the entire thing. You probably say that, okay, let me sell 50% of the space to the outside players. Long-term forecast. Short-term forecast is maybe 2 days before the flight takes off. You again do the forecasting. And this time, say the forecasting is that, do you know what, these people will book 280 cubic capacity. Then you know for a fact that 520 cubic capacity is free. Since there are only 2 more days left out, you might want to sell 80% of the space to the outside vendors, like maybe the other players. That way, you ensure that occupancy percentage increases. This is one way of looking at it, right? The moment you forecast the demand, usually, I mean, this is an aviation, but usually what happens is, the moment you forecast the demand, say the demand in certain countries is high, then you know that you have to dynamically create your network route. That's called as network optimization. Network optimization is very big in the space of supply chain. So I have to meet an objective. Objective is to please maximize my fleet usage. However, you're saying that I have only 10 cargo flights. So if you demand, if you focus the demand in all these 11 countries for all these players, then you know on how effectively you can use your 10 cargo fleet. So you can change your route. If it's flying from, say, Seoul to maybe KL, from there maybe it's going to Delhi. So you can probably look at a flight takes multiple routes, right? So you can decide on how should your flight take off, where should it land, what should be the connecting hubs. so on and so forth. Right? So many things can be done basically, right? And then, I mean, we have built many other things. That's one of the applications in the space of supply chain. And another thing is in Coca-Cola. So Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages Private Limited, folks. Okay. So what we have done there is they have an inventory. This is a business problem. We are still working on this. Yeah. This is a very big project. They have an inventory and they have 19 manufacturing plants across India. Okay. So all these 19 plants operate separately. Okay. Now, all these factories, they have machines. And what are we doing now is we have placed IoT sensors. And also one more thing. In inventory, they have a lot of components, a lot of parts available pertaining to machines. If any of the components break down, they go to the inventory and they fix the issue. This inventory is available in multiple plants. So each plant has its own inventory of components which might fail. A few of the components in the inventory are untouched for years together. Say you purchase 3 crores worth of inventory, and if it is untouched for 3 or 4 years, that means this amount is being inefficiently being used. You can rather gain interest if you put it in bank, right? Rather than purchasing those components and placing it in inventory. And also components, when you purchase, the value of that depreciates, thereby impacting your bottom line. So we placed industrial IoT sensors like temperature sensor, pressure sensor, filler sensor, chiller sensor, so on and so forth. A lot of sensors. Using these IoT sensors, you capture the data and put it in the SCADA system. SCADA is like you can imagine that that's a server where all the data of the machines reside. You take that data from the SCADA machine system, and then you build predictive modeling on which component of your machine will break down. That's number one. Second, you can also do survival analytics. What do I mean by survival analytics? Survival analytics means you say that this component will break down in the next 1 month. This component will break down in the next 1 year. This component might break down in the next 3 months or 3 hours. Such prediction can be given back to the inventory management. And all these components which might break down, only those components might be placed in inventory. So you effectively reduce this cost significantly. You have only those components which are actually needed, and also all those critical components, right? Even if your machine doesn't, if your machine learning algorithm or AI does not predict that a specific component will break down, but if you feel that it's critical, still you have it in your inventory, just to ensure that plant does not stop operations, right? So collecting the data, putting it in SCADA, doing your data science, AI activities, survival analytics on that, and then getting those predictions tagged back to the inventory is one thing. And then you can also send it back to the technicians as a message, SMS, right? If you send technicians an SMS, what happens is they can immediately go to the machine and see what's going wrong. And you can do proactive maintenance. So the downtime of your machines is reduced. The moment your machines do not break down, plants will be operating 24/7. These are all classic examples of supply chain analytics. All right. There's another thing, which is if all these 19 plants have separate independent inventory, can I not create a centralized inventory? Now here is where again network optimization comes into picture. You have 19 different plants and 19 different inventories, each inventory in each plant. Can I not have network optimization. Now, in network optimization, the decisions are based on, is it always good if I have centralized inventory catering to all these 19 plants? If then, should I have this centralized inventory in South India or North India or East India or West India? Where do I actually have it? Does it make sense to have one centralized inventory, or do I need to have one per region? Right? For this, you need to understand about objectives. Objective could be, hey, any component should reach the plants within 24 hours. Okay, rather more than objective, this is a constraint that is levied on you. Now this becomes interesting. So you have constraints, you have objective functions. Now try to optimize it. Right? And also I can show you some simple example of the project that our folks have recently done. I think I need to pull it from here. Let me see. Yeah, let's see. So this is how it looks like, guys. Look at the pace at which these bottles are going, and this is the sensor. One of a past participant also got involved in this project, right? People who do IoT trainings, we included them also on this project. We included a few of our participants also alongside our senior folks who will actually be on ground. Okay, so let me play this. You'll get a sense. And how speed it's getting counted. It is counting. This is the pace at which bottles get manufactured. And you need sensors to count that. If you count this, you know how many cartons you need, right? How many boxes you need. And you know that based on that, how many distributors you can distribute, how many trucks you need, right? So it's all interlinked, friends. Supply chain analytics. No matter which industry you work in, supply chain analytics would be there. Okay, another thing. How do we track how many vehicles are entering and how many vehicles are leaving? Because each vehicle which leaves with a truck full of, say, Coke bottles, right? We want that to come back and pick another load of Coke within a defined time, right? And the number of trucks are limited. And can I count that? Yep, absolutely, you can do that. This, of course, is something which is proposed, but this is a project that we have done for someone else. But it makes sense for supply chain, so I'm playing this. No audio. At the gate of, say, any of the company, if we put that, the moment a vehicle comes in, it tracks. The moment a vehicle goes out, it tracks. Not just that, if it is placed at the frontal, it also captures what? The vehicle number. And with vehicle number, you already have your database of the driver, of the vendor, etc. Obviously, companies such as Coke will not buy these trucks, right? So, and then it all gets generated, and in the results, you have an output. This is how it is. And one of our own participant has done this project also as an internship project, and we have hired her in InnoDataTix, right? So that's how, you know, analytics is shaping up. And this is what is supply chain analytics in short. And then let me show you, I've just taken from here, supply chain analytics. So when you go to our courses, you have something called as domain analytics, and you have here supply chain analytics, right? This supply chain analytics program is for 40 hours. And then you'll have 60 hours of assignments and 60 hours of live project. We highly recommend that people from data science background enroll for such programs. What are you going to learn? Right? You're going to learn about how does supply chain work, right? Supply chain 101. What are the various aspects of supply chain which one should be aware of? What are the applications of data science and AI in supply chain in further detail? Then the most important thing when you want network route optimization, etc., is operations research. So we will spend significant time on data optimization and data simulation. Then we get introduced to supply chain analytics, and then you have something called as SCOR model, supply chain operations research model. Okay, and then how do you actually measure your performance of supply chain using ROE, ROA, APT, so on and so forth, right? And how do you design a robust supply chain network? As I've told you, should it be a hub and spoke? Should you have a single hub? Should you have multiple hubs? How many spokes should be connected to each of the hub so that you achieve your desired objectives and also abide by the business constraints? Transportation management is one big thing, right? You know what? I we opened a franchisee in Aurangabad, and while I was traveling back, this was 2 days back. SpiceJet. I have to explain this. It was supposed to take off at 9:15 p.m. Do you know what? It took off at 1:30 a.m. So we had to wait for so much time. Why? Because they had limited fleet, SpiceJet, and SpiceJet got delayed in Bengaluru, and then it got delayed. I mean, it delayed the entire schedule. All that will happen is there will be a brand dent. I've taken oath that I'm not going to travel using SpiceJet anymore because frequently happens, right? So it is going to create a brand dent. And there is another player called as TrueJet, which operates only between tier 2 and tier 3, though these people are one of our customers. And we have done already a project in the space of transportation management, right? And based on a suggestion, they have actually gone ahead and opened a new route between two places, because that way they could effectively optimize their fleet. Fleet means number of aircrafts, right? And then we will learn about machine learning, building predictive models, right? In modeling discrete choices. Then we will look into the coordination in supply chain under uncertainty. Usually we have a lot of uncertainty in supply chain. Think about COVID-19, coronavirus, right? Because of which aviation industry has taken a significant hit. Entire supply chain is screwed up big time, right? So there is always this uncertainty. How are you going to build and coordinate your entire supply chain under uncertainty? And one more thing, friends, hopefully we are going to sign a pact with Panasonic, okay? And all of our programs will have in collaboration with Panasonic. We have been to their innovation lab as well, right? So what happens here is Panasonic has a specific product called, I think, Sneak It, if I'm not mistaken. What happens is you just need to place that in your wallet or anywhere, and it's going to track throughout using Bluetooth. If you kept your wallet somewhere and forgot, if you're say 200 meters away from the wallet, it's going to give an alarm message so that you might go and pick one if you forgot. So it has far outreaching applications. All these devices, though it's made in India, a lot of other IoT devices of Panasonic, such as if you have AC, right? Sending a sensor alarm saying that the amount of dust deposit on your duct has increased. So you'll have to clean that. These kind of alarms are also notified using IoT sensors. All of these IoT sensors, except for this, which is completely made in India, is imported from China. If it's imported from China, then obviously now you'll take a hit. So again, coordination in supply chain under uncertainty is very important. And when you look at ITC, by the way, work with ITC, right? You have ITC paper manufacturing plants. They import pulp Once they import from Australia, then they import from, say, Kashmir. Next time they import from some African country. From which place do I import? How much proportion should I import so that I get this raw material in the least amount of time with least amount of cost with highest quality possible? Yep, uncertainty is everywhere because sometimes in Africa you have Ebola, so you cannot rely on a single region. You cannot rely on China alone because it has its own challenges. Who knows? Tomorrow there might be a political rift with China. How do you solve that? That's called a PEST, by the way: political, economical, social, technological. Every data scientist is expected to look at all these aspects while they build the model. Okay, and then we will discuss about neural networks in supply chain. Let me tell you. What we have done is a few years back in Malaysia, there is a client who manufactures circuits for your mobile, circuits for your laptop, etc. Right? It's a semiconductor industry. Right? So what they were doing is they had a lot of human power around the supply chain, assembly line. So circuit boards were getting manufactured. People used to stand, in this way. Okay, and then this person will take one, this person will take the next, this person will take the third. They will review manually on whether that is defective or not. Oh my God, this is called as brain drain. Human resources are being underutilized. So what we have done is we have placed high-end cameras. The moment it falls in this region, it scans and it does image processing against good versus bad circuits. And immediately, if it is bad, it's going to route it in this direction. If it's good, in this direction. Right? When it routes in this direction or in that direction, humans will be here against defective things. They would actually cross check, double check that. But a lot of effort was reduced because processing was happening faster. Right? So that's a classic example of neural network in, of course, here in manufacturing. But obviously, if you can tease out the good ones from the bad ones, then your manufacturing becomes faster, your packaging becomes faster. You can, ship these things faster, time to market, and you can sell it faster, and thereby you get revenue faster. Everything is interlinked. And then we will also look at time series analysis forecasting. So, you know what? Regular forecasting models, most often than not, do not work. What we have done is we have built econometric models. So, for example, that aviation supply chain, right? You cannot just look at, the data set wherein you have day and then occupancy percentage. Right? How many, or how much cubic capacity people have booked on each and every day, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, in that way. Here, it also depends on how many new airlines have ventured into cargo line of business, right? And then how many flights do they have? What is the space that they have? Right? And then what is going to drive your airline's profitability? Majorly, it's the fuel price. Okay, how many fuel, what is the price of fuel? So you consider all these variables, and then we build something called as LSTM models. In fact, we have built bidirectional LSTM models. Okay, and then we tried out deep bidirectional LSTM models as well. So these are the various things that one will learn as part of, or one should learn rather. I'm not asking you guys to join. This is not a demo class wherein I sell this, but these are the various aspects that one has to focus upon when they want to venture into supply chain analytics. And what industries use supply chain? Name it. Name it. All the industries have supply chain vertical. It's a department in its own. and analytics in that is becoming extremely famous. Logistics analytics is one another thing which is part of your supply chain value chain itself. Okay, so that's all that I had basically. I mean, a quick session on what is supply chain, what are the few applications in the space of data science and AI. Yeah. Please do share your reviews by clicking here. This particular video will also be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So, yep, you can actually make use of that. All right, friends. So I'll stop here. If you have any questions, please ask me now. And if you have no questions, then thank you so much for joining in. It was a pleasure, explaining the applications of supply chain to you guys.